Hey, it's your girl Boma. Welcome to my channel. In today's video, we're talking about the differences between education in the US versus education in Canada. You may not know this, but I actually went to school in the US for about 2 years. Then I transferred over to Canada where I'm at right now, and I did the last 2.5 to 3 years of my degree over here. So because of that, I want to share some of the really important differences that you may not be aware of. This will be really helpful to you if you're wanting to apply to school and you're not sure if you want to go to school in the US or school in Canada. There are a few differences you should be aware of. If you're interested in this video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. The first difference you may not be aware of is the fact that we actually go by different names. In the US, university is called college. So when I was in the US, I just said, hey, I'm going to college. And that could mean a bunch of things. It could mean community college, or it could mean university. So if you say in Canada, if you say college, people assume you're going to a 2-year college that may give you a certificate or a diploma when you're done. And then universities are where people get degrees, and they're 4 years or more. So that's the first difference, college versus university. Another difference you should be aware of is price. US universities cost significantly more than Canadian universities. And I've made a few videos about the cheapest universities in Canada. I'll link them in the description box. But in Canada, as an international student, you can pay as little as $4,000. Did you even know that? The main reason students pay less in Canada is because our government does subsidize education quite significantly. So that's why. Some Canadian universities are very, very cheap, while in the US, you really need to be going to, small towns, probably in the Midwest, to get really affordable education. So that's a massive difference. The third difference you should be aware of is social life. If you like to party, I feel like Canadian universities are probably not the place for you. I hate to say this, but Canadian universities are just not as lit as American universities. In American universities, you have Greek life, you have sororities, fraternities. There's just a lot of socialization and party culture, which I know a lot of people like to participate in when they're in university. Unfortunately, Canada doesn't really have much of that on campus or off campus. So if you want to turn up when you go to university, I feel like going to school in Canada may not be the right fit. But if you want a university that really cares about your well-being, your emotions, your academics, your finances, come to Canada.
Clap if you care. Clap if you care.
Something else you should know about schooling in Canada versus the US is that Canada does not have a really elite sports culture. When I went to school in the US, it was amazing. When we had sports games, the whole city came out to our campus. There was tailgating, there was music, there was cheerleading. There was just a lot of fun and activity surrounding sports. We all wore our university shirts. We all wore our school colors. There's just a lot of school pride in US universities, and that's really not a thing in Canada. In Canada, I can probably count in one hand the amount of times I went to a sports game. And I'm probably gonna guess 2. I think I went to 2 basketball games, while when I was in the US, I went to each game because it was just so much fun. Canada doesn't really have things like tailgating before parties. If you're a student who wants to play sports, or you really like sports activities or sporting events, I would advise you to go to school in the US just because it's more fun and it's more embraced there. You may be curious why that's the case about sport. Really, it's because the US has college elite athletes and Canada really doesn't have that. For instance, our biggest sport here is hockey, and most hockey players don't go to university to play hockey. They just go straight to the NHL. While in the US, many sports players played in their college and then went pro. We don't really have that in Canada, so as a result, it's just not a thing. So sorry to disappoint you if you're a huge sports fan, but it is what it is. I mentioned earlier that Greek life is really not a thing. Another difference is just Greek life. If you watch all those American movies where there's a popular guy and the popular girl, and they're part of a sorority or fraternity, not really a thing here. My university actually did have a fraternity for a while, and it was not really that popular. Some kids did it. Most kids just thought it was kind of weird. While in the US, it's a huge thing. I remember when I was in the US, my college, had a frat house just right across the street from the campus. And, people loved it. People went there to party. So yeah, if you wanted to have a movie experience where you have like some, fraternity initiation ceremony It's not going to happen in Canada. There are similarities though. The similarity is that residence life is quite similar in both countries. I lived and worked in the dorm in the US and I did so in Canada as well. And there's a lot of similarities. You know, kids like to hang out and party and all that stuff when they're in the dorms. So if you're a student who wants to live on campus in residence halls, you will have a very similar experience in the US and in Canada. You can't really go wrong. I think maybe the main difference is just that your dorm will be cheaper in Canada because university is cheaper here. Another difference is spring break. Probably watch all those movies where kids go to Florida and party during spring break. I loved doing that when I was in college in the US as well. I went to California. I had a really good time with my girls. In Canada, many schools have something called Reading Week, which is kind of like spring break. And it's essentially a few days that you have off and you're expected to like study for exams. That's our equivalent of spring break. We don't really have spring break. So again, if you want to have that, you know, really stereotypical American experience, but you go party in the spring, go to the States, we don't really have that in Canada. If you're wondering about things like, you know, quality of education, quality of teaching, quality of jobs, stuff like that, there are no major differences. Like I mentioned, I went to school in the US and in Canada. The quality of education was very similar across the board. So you can't go wrong either way. Professors are great. It really depends on what school you choose, not necessarily what country you choose. Those are all the things I can think of in terms of similarities and differences between universities in the US and Canada. If you have any other questions, feel free to comment below and I'll answer them. I also have a Facebook group and I would love to continue the conversation there. So feel free to join in and become a member of the treasured Boma Nation. Thank you for watching and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.